Picture this. You're high up in the biting cold of the mountains. The air is so thin your lungs literally ache, and the silence around you, it's heavy. This is where we meet an aging Zen master and his brilliant young disciple, Kaelen. Now, for years, Kaelen has studied the sutras, he's mastered his breathing, and he's learned all the intellectual frameworks of mindfulness. But as we all know, theory is one thing, right? The fire of true experience is another entirely. Knowing this, the master summons him on the eve of the winter solstice, the longest, darkest night of the whole year. Kaelen is about to face his final test.
The aging master's voice barely rises above the howling mountain wind outside their temple as he delivers this chilling command. Your final test is not a riddle. You will walk to the cave of the shadow at the edge of the valley. You will enter at sundown. You will sit in the center, and you will not leave until the sun rises. Hearing this, Kaelen's blood runs absolutely cold. You see, the Cave of the Shadow isn't just some rocky overhang. It's a place of terrifying local legend. The villagers at the base of the mountain refuse to go anywhere near it. Woodcutters swear that deep within its winding tunnels lives a beast of pure malice. And the most horrifying part? It doesn't feed on flesh. It feeds purely on human terror. They say if you stand near the entrance at midnight, you can literally hear it pacing, its low, guttural breathing echoing through the stone. Despite the overwhelming terror welling up inside him, Kaelen obeys. As the sun dips below the jagged peaks and casts these long, bruised shadows across the snow, he steps into the cave. Instantly, the pitch-black darkness swallows him whole. He finds a flat stone right in the center, folds himself into the lotus position, and closes his eyes. Inhale, exhale. He desperately tries to focus his breath, just trying to anchor himself against the freezing, oppressive silence of the void. Okay, let's break down the timeline of this dreadful night. For the first 2 hours after sundown, Kaelen's ordeal consists only of that freezing, oppressive silence as the temperature just plummets. But as midnight approaches, the silence breaks, and the real nightmare begins. Scratch, scratch. It's faint at first, but it's the unmistakable sound of heavy claws dragging across the granite floor. Kaelen's heart rate absolutely spikes. He tries to retreat into his meditation, gripping his knees tightly. But then comes the breathing, a slow, rhythmic, wet exhalation echoing from the blackness right in front of him. The air in the cave shifts. A freezing draft brushes against his face, carrying the distinct scent of damp earth and decay. The beast is circling him in the dark.
Kaelen's eyes snap open, straining against the pitch black, but he is entirely blind. And this is when his mind really begins to paint the darkness. He imagines massive, glowing eyes peering out from the void. He pictures jagged jaws opening just inches from his throat. The terror is so intense, his chest tightens, and he can barely draw breath. His muscles lock into a rigid state of absolute paralysis. He wants to run, he wants to scream, but the fear has completely short-circuited his nervous system. Every time he exhales, the beast seems to exhale back, mimicking his rhythm, mocking his terror. For the next 6 hours, he is pressed against the cold stone, utterly convinced that every single second is his last. He experiences an entire lifetime of suffering and anxiety in a single night. And then dawn breaks. A single piercing beam of golden morning light breaches the entrance of the cave and strikes the back wall. Kaelen flinches, bracing himself to finally see the monster that had tormented him. He opens his eyes, and he gasps. The reality? The cave is entirely empty. There is no beast. The back wall of the cave, now illuminated by the sun, is actually a massive sheet of smooth, polished obsidian, a literal mirror of black stone. Trembling, Kaelen realizes the stunning truth. The scratching? A dry, dead branch scraping against the stone at the entrance, pushed by the mountain wind. That horrific, wet breathing? It was just the echo of his own hyperventilation bouncing off the parabolic curve of the obsidian wall. The monster, the malice, the glowing eyes, they never existed outside of him. The demon in the dark was constructed entirely by his own mind. Let's shift gears and look at the psychology of fear to understand exactly what happened here. You see, the human brain is fundamentally a prediction machine, and its primary goal is not to keep you happy, its primary goal is to keep you alive. When Kaelen was plunged into total darkness, which is a state of complete sensory deprivation, his brain lost its ability to predict its environment. Clinical psychologists call this the intolerance of uncertainty. When your brain lacks data, it doesn't just relax and say, well, everything's probably fine. To protect you, it assumes the absolute worst. It literally invents a threat to keep you alert. It assumes a rustling branch is a predator. It assumes a simple echo is a monster. Now, what's really fascinating about Kaelen's physical lockup is a mechanism called the amygdala hijack. The amygdala is the brain's ancient fear center. When faced with that intolerance of uncertainty we just talked about, the amygdala sounds an overwhelming, blaring alarm. It totally hijacked Kaelen's system, making him react violently to a terrifying simulation rather than reality. The threat was non-existent, sure, but his brain's alarm was very, very real. Biologically, what we're looking at is an unstoppable physiological cascade. Let's walk through it. First, the total darkness provides zero sensory data. Second, the amygdala sounds the alarm because of that lack of data. Third, the body responds with a massive cortisol and adrenaline dump directly into the bloodstream. And finally, step 4, physical paralysis. This is the exact step-by-step mechanic of how Kaelen's body completely short-circuited in the dark. He wasn't actually fighting reality, he was fighting a chemical cascade. But psychology goes even deeper here. The legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung theorized that every human has a shadow. This shadow consists of the repressed, ignored, or hidden parts of our psyche. Jung noted that when we are placed in a void, like, say, an empty dark cave, we tend to project our internal chaos outward. Because Kaelen hadn't fully mastered his own internal fears and anxieties, the moment he was placed in that dark void, he projected his unresolved internal terror into the physical space around him. He literally created a demon to represent the fear he refused to face within himself. Which brings us beautifully from the clinical mechanics of fear to the philosophical cure, the illusion of Mara. Central to this Buddhist philosophy is the concept of sunyata, which translates to emptiness. This is the really profound idea that a space or an object has no inherent good or evil qualities. It simply exists. The cave of the shadow is actually the perfect representation of sunyata. We have to remind ourselves that the cave had absolutely no malice. It was just stone, air, and a dead branch. The cave was completely empty. It was Kaelen who brought the demon inside with him. And this brilliantly illustrates a core story from Buddhist philosophy regarding Mara, the demon of illusion. The story goes that when the historical Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree to attain enlightenment, Mara attacked him with terrifying armies of demons. But what did the Buddha do? He didn't fight back. He didn't run. He simply looked at the illusions and said, "I see you, Mara." By merely recognizing that the demons were illusions constructed by the mind, they vanished into thin air. Observation became the ultimate weapon against fear. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, think about it. We do exactly what Kaelen did every single day. Our everyday demons just take different forms: upcoming exams, career changes, social anxiety, or unresolved pain. Whenever you face an unpredictable future, your brain is plunged into its own cave of the shadow. It experiences that intolerance of uncertainty. And what does it do? It puts a monster in the dark cave of your future. It tells you failure is a beast waiting to devour you. We project our insecurities onto our coworkers, our partners, and our friends, fighting invisible enemies that are actually just echoes of our own unresolved pain. We are rarely defeated by things outside of us. We are defeated by the illusions we build in the dark. When you finally turn on the light of awareness, when you stop panicking and simply observe your thoughts, just like the Buddha observing Mara, you realize there is no monster. There is only an echo. So, the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by a situation, ask yourself this: are you fighting a real threat, or are you just listening to the echo of your own panicked breathing? Face the mirror. Turn on the light. You'll find that the only thing you ever had to conquer was yourself.